Welcome to this special edition of the Tea. There's so much going on around the world, and we are smack dab in the middle of it. We want to thank Congressman Greg Meeks out of Queens, New York. He is the ranking member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. He literally just got out of a Venezuelan shadow hearing where he had witnesses from formerly of the State Department to talk about what's happening. But before we go to that, Congressman, thank you for joining us. We have an urgent issue right now. There is an evacuation of U.S. personnel from Qatar. What does that mean? Because we don't want to read the tea leaves. We want to hear it straight from you.
Well, we've seen this before. The last time that there was an evacuation of U.S. personnel from Qatar, that meant that there was going to be a strike in Iran. And so we know that the president has been threatening to strike Iran. But here we go again. He has not come to Congress. He's not asked for an authorization, for his War Powers Act is concerned.
Right.
We do not know, have not heard anything. But as you just articulated, so we're trying to read the tea leaves. And I believe that if, in fact, he does strike Iran on this, then I think that it will make things much worse, and it'll leave the American people in worse shape, because we don't know who or what he's going to strike. And I also think that it gives the opportunity for those in the Iranian, like the Ayatollah and the Iranian leadership, to say that this is a U.S. focused attack, as opposed to what the facts are. Because the facts are that the people of the Iranians, they organically started this protest because of their economy, the devaluation of their money,
Mhm.
and then some of the corruption that was taking place. It had nothing to do, wasn't started, wasn't contemplated by the United States of America. It was the Iranian people. Similarly, as what took place in 1979, when it was the Iranian people that decided to get rid of the Shah because of
Yes.
corruption,
The
etc.
Shah of Iran, yes.
Correct. So we're going to be looking at this very closely. But again, it appears if there is going to be a strike, it's an unauthorized strike that this president will do.
But you just last week had a meeting, the Gang of Eight, with Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, about this War Powers Act issue when it comes to Venezuela. But doesn't that apply to Iran as well?
It should apply to any time that this president want to utilize weapons and go to war. Again, that's why this president seems to think that he can do whatever he wants. There's an unclassified document. Yesterday, there was a documents that were first made available to members on a classified basis. Subsequent thereto, there was an unclassified document where legal counsel tried to argue that this president can do anything that he wants to do, which would be contrary to the Constitution of the United States, the international laws, the UN, and so it'd be a complete violation. And again, so I would hope that a number of my Republican colleagues will stand up, and just as we've been looking to do motions and bills to vote on whether or not the War Powers Act has been violated, that we do the same here.
And Republicans did stand up on that vote on the war against allowing the president to do what he wants. They did stand up and say, the War Powers Act is in effect, and he
In the
needs to
Senate,
follow.
they did. We haven't
Yeah,
done it in
yeah,
the House.
yeah, yes. Thank you for qualifying that. In the Senate, they stood up and said he needs to follow the law. He needs to follow the Constitution. He needs to follow what the founding fathers put in place. So, do you think that would happen in the House? Do you think Republicans would follow in the House?
I think that the key is getting it on the floor. You see,
Mm.
because on the floor, the speaker is not the speaker, or the speaker is the president of the United States. Mr. Johnson is the deputy speaker. He does whatever Donald Trump tells him to do. In fact, Donald Trump said it himself, that he's in fact the speaker and the president.
And Republicans are mad at Mike Johnson. They're blaming him for all the problems. So that we have to see how that plays out. 9/11, well, not 9/11, but 911 calls in the nation. with one service carrier, they're having a big problem. People are concerned with all of this activity everywhere. Um, is this a national security issue when you cannot reach out to your first responders to get help?
Well, it is a security concern within the United States. It's not something from outside, it's from inside that is being created by the President of the United States and his agents known as ICE, who are going around Gestapo-like with with masked face and just indiscriminately pulling people out of churches, out of schools, out of grocery stores where they're shopping. So using intimidation tactics in states like we saw that's currently taking place in Minneapolis and in Oregon, in
Yeah.
Illinois, and there's threats of him going other places. So yes, it is a security threat for all Americans in the United States by our own government, in this case, ICE.
Wow. Now let's talk about this shadow hearing. Why did this Venezuelan shadow hearing take place, and who were the witnesses?
So it took place because I've been asking the chairman of the committee, Brian Mass, to do hearings in regards to Venezuela so that we can hear from individuals from the State Department, from the administration, as to their rationale of going into Venezuela, kidnapping and taking Maduro and his wife. What's the follow-up? What's the next? What's next? How much does it cost? How much has it cost? And none of that has happened. So I was very frustrated that we've not had any hearings on the Foreign Affairs Committee. So I called one as the ranking member, which since it was an official hearing, as a shadow hearing. Uh,
Yeah.
and we had Democrats who were members of the House Foreign Affairs Committee to come forward. And I decided to bring in individuals who had worked for Democrat and Republican administrations in the State Department. So we had the Honorable Thomas Shannon, who's the former acting Secretary of State. He was the Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs. He's a U.S. Ambassador to Brazil and Assistant Secretary of State to the Western Hemisphere of Affairs. He was one witness. And Mr. Frank, the Honorable Frank Morrow, he's a former U.S. Ambassador to the Organization of American States, a Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Western Hemisphere Affairs, and Mr. Brian Futerkane, who's the Senior Advisor, U.S. Program at the International Crisis Group, and a former Attorney Advisor in the Office of the State Department Legal Advisor. So those were the three witnesses that we called in so that we could ask them, some important questions. And we had several members of Congress that were there, and they were able to ask them a number of questions.
So, and don't laugh, but this is real. Were any of them by any chance read in to this situation by this administration? Because typically in prior administrations, if there's something going on, let's say something was going on in the Obama administration, they could even bring in former Bush administration officials, former Bush administration, daddy and son administration, and Clinton administration officials to talk about what they dealt with and who they dealt with. Did any of them say that they had a chance to be read in by this White House on Venezuela?
I mean, clearly, this White House has not read in anyone in regards to Venezuela other than the oil barons. We heard from the
Mm,
president that he has not come to Congress. He's not gone to anyone else. But we heard out of the president's mouth that before he went in, he talked to some oil barons. And immediately thereafter, he talked to oil barons. So the only ones that we know that the president has had any giving anybody any read as to what he's doing, when he's doing, etc. Again, it's not Congress, whether it's the House or the Senate, and it's not anyone else from the State Department, but oil barons.
mm. And last time we talked, you made it clear that the EU, the European Union, spoke loudly about how it felt with Venezuela. Have you heard, what else are you hearing from the EU, NATO, the United Nations, the African Union, and The Hague? Have you heard anything else?
Well, everybody is looking at the illegal actions of this president, that you went and invaded a sovereign state. And if, in fact, this president can do that with impunity, then he can go almost anywhere that he wants. It's a threat to various countries on the continent of Africa because they have oil and minerals that the United States have want their hands on. Fact of the matter is, there's concerns that there may be an interest and we know some threats that the president has put on countries like uh, Nigeria and um, Benin. So there's several countries. We know that we have been implicit with the dispute in Kenya and the DRC on the continent. We know that he's also threatened to go into Mexico, Colombia, as well as, this is his national security strategy is very similar to the doctrine of what Vladimir Putin feels that he can go into any sovereign state in Europe. And this is why the European countries and the EU are sticking together and fighting against this kind of strategy that is now being implemented by both Vladimir Putin and now um, this president.
Last question. You are a clear voice in a chaotic time on this foreign policy chaos move of Donald John Trump. Americans are scared. You've got Venezuela right now. You've got all this immigration stuff going on, people being deported, people being missing, taken, and moved about. And then we are telling people to evacuate from Qatar with the possible strike, looking at the tea leaves from the past and what could happen now on Iran. What do you say to Americans in this moment that are looking for answers and for calm?
Well, you're not going to get calm as long as you have an unchecked Donald Trump. But you got to have people that stand up. You got to got people that say, we're not going to allow this to happen on our watch. You have to have, and this is where I think that historically, especially for the African American communities, this is what we did in the civil rights movement. We saw new violence was taking place by our government against us. That didn't cause us to bow out. We stood and took the beatings that we had to take to get to where we are. So we need people to stand up and voices to be heard. We then fought for civil rights and voting rights. So we got to make sure that in each and every election that we're coming out to vote, so our voices are heard in that regards. It becomes extremely important. So yes, I know people are scared because especially those, they're indiscriminately going on the streets. ICE is and our government and the president is trying to indict anybody that he possibly could. But we
That's
see
right.
that is, as my attorney general has stood firmly and
Tish James.
by the wayside. So it's time for us to stand up to save, and to stop an individual who I believe is the most corrupt president of the United States.
And I love the fact that you brought in Tish James, and she's winning right now. She and James Comey are winning. But when you say let your voices be heard, the president has heard voices. Remember, Code Pink met him in a restaurant, and they told him he was Hitler. And then just yesterday, we saw the president. He heard someone talking about the Epstein files and called him a pedo president. And he heard him, and he told him to f off and gave him, I can't give the finger because I'm a good church girl, but he can, so he's hearing it. He's hearing it.
He needs to hear more. Let's not stop. This is only the beginning.
Congressman Greg Meeks, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for coming to us right after this Venezuelan shadow hearing, this important hearing. Thank you so much, sir, and thank you for joining us on the T.
Thank you. Always good to be with you, April.